Today in the studio we are joined by Louis Ludik.
Yeah, I was an ex-professional rugby player and played for Ulster for about 8 years. Now I'm co-owner of Hellbent. We use the best of local produce and we give it a South African spin. I walked into the changing room and they make it so special, you know, with your name, your badge and your jersey. I saw that and kind of felt so fortunate.
I'm so conscious of butchering these names. The Borr Borrs.
Borr Borr, yeah.
Borr Borr.
How big an opportunity is like Ulster scene, like outside of Northern Ireland?
Ulster is a big club all over the world and Ulster was always in the mix, you know. I saw everybody else enjoyed it. It's quite kind of surreal.
This podcast is sponsored by Smart Mortgages.
Smart Mortgages are dedicated to making your mortgage process simple with fast decisions, honest advice and solutions that fit your life.
Click the link in the description and take 60 seconds to complete their mortgage readiness quiz. They'll send you a personalised report with advice and guidance that will bring you home. How's it going, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Here's the Craic podcast. Today in the studio we are joined by Louis Ludik. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. And I suppose for people who are watching this right now, a lot of people will know you for rugby. A lot of people will also know you for being the co-owner of Hellbent. But I'll not explain who you are. I'll throw that over to you. So if you just want to give us an explanation who you are, what is it you do?
Yeah, I was an ex-professional rugby player, as you can hear from the accent, from South Africa.
Yeah.
Played rugby my whole life and played for Ulster for about 8 years. And we're now in July, so it's my 10-year anniversary in Northern Ireland. So
right.
Been here for 10 years. And now I'm co-owner of Hellbent. And tried a few different businesses whilst I was here. But yeah, doing mostly sausages and burgers at the moment.
So I was going to ask you, I think rugby, very self-explanatory. People will know what that is, especially people from Ireland. But I suppose when you say sausages and Hellbent, just give us a bit of an explanation as to what Hellbent is.
So Hellbent is it's a bit of a long story, but we'll get to that. But Hellbent is basically we use the best of local produce and we give it a South African spin. So we that's our bit of niche and point of difference is the South African part of it, and it is, you know, Irish and Northern Irish produce is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's some incredible produce over here, and we try and use the most of that, and then give it that South African flavor. So it's different spices and herbs that we use just to make it unique. And unfortunately, the summer's not always great here, and the weather is not amazing as today. But you know, it's a lot of our stuff is very much barbecue orientated. Yeah. But you know, it's nice to have. It's really good to have it at any stage. Mm-hmm. But we love a braai as South Africans. We normally barbecue barbecue
right.
In Afrikaans, so we do that quite a lot. Unfortunately, we can't do it here, but a lot of the stuff that we do comes from you normally have it on a braai.
Yeah, we're learning so many new words today.
What's some of the things you've like found the biggest changes when you moved over here from like South Africa, and obviously you lived in France, but like was there anything real shocks like in terms of the culture and the cooking and stuff when you moved to Northern Ireland?
One thing that you guys that I've noticed is salt is not a very big thing here. Yeah, people are very scared of salt, so we always have to put extra salt on our food. Yeah. That's one thing that we've noticed. But in terms of culture, it's very similar. I think that's why so many South Africans come over here and fall in love with the place and stay. Obviously, the weather can be quite challenging, but I suppose you can go on holiday, you can go back to South Africa or wherever and get a bit of sun. But it is, you know, culture-wise, we are very, very similar and relaxed. And one thing that I was really shocked, especially I lived in France for a year before we moved over. And one thing that was just incredible here is the patience on the roads. I don't know, you guys probably don't notice it, but everybody gives space. You know, whenever you try and go into a main road or whatever, people will stop and kind of let you in. And for me, that was nice. You know, it's quite special, and that's shows a bit of the nature of the person in general over here.
Yeah.
Wait, what's it like over? Is it just hell for leather on the roads in South Africa? Like?
And so, no, not really. No, it is. It's very rushed as well. I think also in a big city, Belfast not the biggest city. So if you go to Paris or you go to Rome or Johannesburg, it's big city. So it's the big city mentality as well. So people are rushed to get everywhere and they're always late.
Yeah.
Over here, there's rarely traffic and you get to A to B quite quickly, and it's people are more chilled, I think, and I think that plays a big role.
Yeah. I think what shocks me, even like I feel like we over here, if we were say going on a day trip, anything above like we would count Dublin as a trek, like as a fair spin, like you're 2 hours down the road, but everybody's kind of like, well, that's a long way. But like not even as far as like South Africa or France or whatever, even in England, like in the mainland, like a 2 hour trip to them is like, yeah, that would be my commute to work. Whereas like if we go down to Dublin to the airport and you're like, oh, it's a 2 hour journey. Like, but I suppose I'm surprised at the road, at what you're saying about our etiquette on the road. Because I suppose we don't.
Have you never drove through rush hour?
People are still patient. It's crazy. And even if sometimes if you're distracted at a traffic light and you didn't notice the traffic light is red, it takes a couple of seconds for people to honk, to hoot. It does in South Africa. It's milliseconds, and people are
you just say Mario
it's
Kart
like,
foot on
sorry, and I haven't heard anything, and it is it's just different. Even when we moved over, when we looked at houses, we just coincidentally we lived in Hollywood, and people were saying, "What? It's so far away from the stadium," and it's about 20 minutes drive. Like you said, in South Africa, that's like 20 minutes. It's short. It's nothing. Over here, everybody's in East Belfast and 5 minutes from the stadium. For us, it wasn't far at all. So that's true.
So I suppose like looking, it's safe to say, obviously you have your sporting background with rugby, but then also you've said like with opening Hellbent, and then obviously you said you maybe dabbled into a few other businesses which maybe didn't make it off the ground, but you have an entrepreneurial side as well to you. So like looking back at yourself growing up, what was that sort of like in terms of getting into your sport, or did you have entrepreneurial family, or like what sort of explain to us what that was like at the early years?
So when I grew up, I always just wanted to be a rugby player.
Yep.
I was quite fortunate when I was young. I was always quite big, so it came easy to me. And in South Africa, it's such it's a part of the culture and stuff. So that's one thing that I always wanted to be a part of. My parents, my mom and my grandma had a store, a shoe store, and they were entrepreneurs. Yeah. But it wasn't really installed in me. If I wasn't going to become a rugby player, I thought I was going to be an accountant, strangely enough. And it's actually my wife's family that's very much entrepreneurial. So I met my wife when I was 15, she was 14. So we've been together since. So we are high school sweethearts. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's quite special. But her family is very much entrepreneurs. So it is. I've learned quite a lot in the mentality. I never saw myself really as an entrepreneur, but I think spending so much time with them and during rugby, you learn a lot, and it's weird how life turns out in the end, and the opportunities just came, and that's where. And with my wife, she's the clever one. She's the one with the brains, and she's highly intelligent. So she came up with kind of the whole Hellbent idea as well, and she came up with a few ideas that we tried. So I know last week you guys, was it last week that you spoke to Carly to flipping houses? Yeah. So we did that as well here in Belfast. We did it once in South Africa, and then we did it here in Belfast in Castlereagh Road. Yeah. So we flipped a house and made a bit of money out of it, but not huge. Yeah. And then Tommy Bow and I we started Rugby Rising. Yeah. So we did that for 1 year as well, where we invite schools all around the country and then play 1 week of rugby against each other, and you have kind of a champion at the end. So we tried that for a bit, and that was also quite challenging, but then COVID hit. And then whenever Hellbent took over, we gained quite a bit of momentum quite quickly, and that kind of stuck, and we just ran with that.
Yeah. And Hellbent started around like pre-COVID.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you notice whenever COVID hit, and obviously we'll get into like a little bit of because I think the story behind Hellbent is so interesting, but did you almost find that did you feel like because people were at home almost and like maybe a bit more disposable income, wanted to try new things, that it took off? Or where did you kind of notice that it kind of...
It's a tough one. I think it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
Because whenever we started, it was 2018 with Skalk, my business partner, and it all started actually at a barbecue. So at a braai, he invited loads of the rugby players around, and he had some of the boerewors, so the boerewors sausages he made at the local butcher, and we tried it, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And boerewors is such a, it's a staple product from South Africa, and because we are over here, you don't really get a lot of beef sausages. It's mostly pork, and especially with those type of herbs and spices, it's very unique. And like I said, it's like on a barbecue, it's very good, like on in the stove and stuff. But on a barbecue, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And we had it, and my wife and Shamay said, "Listen, this is incredible. We should try and sell this." And we just laughed it off and said, "Yeah, whatever." And then a couple of weeks after, a couple of the rugby guys and their families asked for it.
Put in orders.
Yeah, basically. And so the kids loved it, and because the kids were basically licking the plates clean, and it's a really good product. And and obviously not being from here, we didn't know where to start. We never really started a business, and we had no network, and started fortunately with Ulster. They were really helpful, and Rugby Players Ireland, they do quite a lot of work with the guys outside of rugby, to try and introduce guys. And because as rugby players, I don't know if you know, that's one of the difficult thing is, as all possibly professional sportsmen, is what do you do after rugby and after sports? It's a very daunting thought of, one day I have to stop playing, and what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
And like with people like in companies like Rugby Players Ireland, they try and guide people through that and try and, number one, decide what you want to do, because I think that's the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
And we got introduced to Invest in I and all of those, and just started meeting people, and we met a branding company here in Belfast, and we sat down with them for half a day, and we just explained with Skalk, my business partner, his wife and my wife and I, we just sat down and explained what we are as people and what we see the business is like, and they came after a week. They came back with this concept of Hellbent. We're Hellbent on, number one, making Belfast a home. We really wanted to stay behind, and Hellbent would be the key for that and the opportunity. And we just want to share our culture. There's so many South Africans around in the UK and Ireland, and we just want to share that, but also we want to share it with the locals. Yeah, because there's a lot of companies around that try and share, that's got sales boerewors, but it's very much for South Africans. But our biggest difference was we wanted to introduce it to everyone. We want to make it basically mainstream. That's our big goal. And so, but basically whenever they came up with Hellbent, we just loved it. We just thought it's a really cool and a cool concept, so all credit to them. They did incredibly well with that. So that's where the name Hellbent and the whole journey started. And sorry, that's a long off the road where during COVID was quite interesting, because all the stores, just before COVID, we got our first contract with Henderson's. Yep. So that with Eurospa, and I think initially we were in about 28 stores, and back then Skalk moved back to South Africa. He had a few injuries, and his contract wasn't renewed. And you went back to South Africa, and I had a meeting with Henderson's, and they basically said, they want these three products, the boerewors, chakalaka burgers, and the meatballs. And after that meeting, I phoned Skalk and said, listen, I think you should come back. There's definitely opportunity here. And I was still playing, and he was playing for a contract but didn't have one. So he was the only one really to start with the business properly. And whenever COVID hit, Skalk didn't get a new contract, and then he decided to move his whole family back to Belfast.
Yeah.
And so took a huge risk on top of everything. And then during COVID and then we launched into Henderson's, I think the February, and obviously March, everything got locked down and stuff. So it was, I think initially it was very difficult because we couldn't go out and we couldn't do any tastings and sampling in store. So that was a big part of the launch idea, is to go into store and do tastings.
Yeah.
But saying that, we did loads of markets. So obviously that was almost the only way that people could go out and buy produce. So in the Bangor Fresh Market in Bangor and in Newtonards and stuff. So that we were there early on Saturdays and Wednesdays and stuff and let people taste.
Yeah.
So we had the braai there and barbecuing and people were tasting and stuff. So that was quite cool. So we had that helped a lot for people to try it. And then, but in retail, during that time, they didn't want to see anyone. So it was really difficult to get new contracts or to get in front of buyers, because they were just happy with what's on shelf. They didn't want to get infected, so they didn't. Everybody just stayed away. So in terms of that, getting more business was impossible for a couple of years. It was really, really difficult.
How does that process work? Like, just to sort of give people a bit of like insight behind the scenes. Like, obviously, like a food product, when you're going in to like pitch to them stores, is it more about like the brand, the packaging, or is it actually a thing of like people try the food and they're like, no, like this is a good product? Like, how do you sell it to the likes of Henderson's and all?
Yeah, it's a combo of all of that. It is, like, I must say, I think we were very fortunate, with the rugby. I think it definitely opened up doors. Like, there's no doubt about it that if we didn't play rugby, it would have been much harder. I definitely think it gets you, at least in the door, and it gets your product in front of people. I think that definitely helps. But in terms of getting onto shelf is a completely different story, because you need to have a unique selling point. It needs to be unique. And especially in the meat industry, every single person that's been in the meat industry says the same thing. They say it is very difficult. It is very difficult to get in, and because it's been established for such a long time, and people are creatures of habits. They eat the same thing, and it's very, very difficult to change that. So we knew it was going to be a huge challenge, and obviously still is. But like the unique selling point is everything. You need to bring something unique that's not on shelf. And it's one thing that a product is good, but it needs to be commercially viable as well. So it can't be too expensive. People still need to go on shelf and buy it. And packaging is such a big thing as well. It needs to stand out, and that's why we were fortunate that we went to this branding company, and they've got all these knowledge, and they designed the packs, they did everything. And whenever the one day they came up with the idea of me on the pack, I didn't like that at all. I didn't want that at all. But they said, listen, you need to use it. It's even though you might not like it, but like that's your best chance.
Because it definitely stands out. Like, I've seen it in shelves myself. Like, I think the photo, it gives that sort of almost like personal touch. Like, there is a story behind it. But I think it's interesting that like you went into like an agency so early. Like, you knew did you know how important that was, like the brand side of it from the beginning, or was it just advice? Or like, because like some businesses maybe just start off with an idea and eventually just come up with a business name and they're like, oh, we need to improve this. But like, how did you know to come up straight with that? Like,
that is one thing we wanted to different. We immediately wanted to do, even with Rugby Rising, Tom and I, we went to a branding company to design the logo and stuff. And like with this, it's bizarre that we actually took such a big chance and such a big risk to invest so much, even though we had one sausage recipe. If you look back, it's actually crazy. But if you have faith in it, we have faith in ourselves, and we thought, why not just give it your all?
Is this Tommy Bow?
Tommy Bow, yeah.
No, like, I think that's interesting because he's obviously had such success with the shoes and like the brand, and it's been like obviously a massive success with him. So like, how much have you learnt off him as well with business and stuff?
Yeah, huge amounts. Like, it was awesome. with driving around with Tommy, and that was a completely different experience because we were looking for sponsors and stuff for the tournament, and sitting in, 1 minute running around on a rugby field and the next minute dressing up and going to Dublin and sitting, in these huge boardrooms and stuff. For me, that was my first kind of taste for it, and like to see him, and a couple of times on the road, like he would ask, like, if they ask this, what are you going to say, and kind of he'd prep me for it. So it was quite cool, and that's the first taste that I kind of had. Whilst I was playing, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew you need to keep searching. I did my sports and conditioning degree whilst I was here, and before all the businesses, I started with the sports and conditioning and got my degree, and I thought maybe I'll go in that direction. Not using, maybe one day I might use it, but not using that. And then I love audiobooks and I love podcasts and stuff, and just learning the whole time. So I was just massively motivated of finding something, that and learn the whole time, because as rugby players, you do that your whole life and you get so used to it, but you need to find something else, and I needed to learn. And with podcasts, but then having this experience and going with Tommy to these meetings and stuff was quite interesting, and learning real life as well, but whilst learning through podcasts and audiobooks.
How early in your career, because like you've mentioned there a couple of times about like almost being prepared after you finish, like how early in your career is that sort of like mentioned to the players? Or because like you hear a lot in football, like players talking about ending their career and going on the TV. But like, what is that support like, and like how early? And like you're even like Ulster, you were there 8 years. Like when did you sort of start thinking, right, well, what am I going to do when I finish?
Probably day 2.
Seriously?
Immediately, yeah. They try, and because it's such a big part of it, and because rugby is it's such a high risk sport. You can get injured, immediately the next day, and it happens so quickly, and whenever you're out of it, you see how fragile it is and how quickly it can end, and especially whenever you're in it, you feel untouchable. Especially the young guys, whenever you break in, it's surreal, because it's something you've dreamt about your whole life, and now you're playing in front of thousands of people and fans, and your family so proud, and you're on this wave, and it's just incredible being there. You don't almost want to wake up from the dream, but the reality is people the whole time telling you prepare, just get something and try and think about it. And it's one of the most difficult things for rugby players, and you can probably these days is maybe a bit less. And over here, there's a lot of guys that get support, and they get scooped up by companies, or they get quite a lot of opportunities. In South Africa, it's so difficult. Whenever there's so many rugby players that retire, and then they have just no idea what they want to do, and they just they might just grab anything, and it's not maybe a passion that they just grab a job and just to have something. And it is whenever you play, you're at 100% of satisfaction, of job satisfaction, because it's a hobby, but you get paid to do it. But obviously when you stop and it's a job, you don't always love your job. It's not at 100%, and that can be difficult, especially if you didn't choose exactly what you want to do. And that's why I think a lot of guys do struggle after rugby to be happy and to really thrive after the sport, because it's very, very difficult for a lot of guys.
And did like the success of Hellbent sort of make it easier for you then to make that decision, or was like how did your career sort of end then? Injury?
Yeah, I got a concussion.
Right.
A bad concussion in 2021 in November.
Yeah.
I got a bad knock against, I think it was Cardiff.
Yeah.
And just got kind of knocked out in the back of my head, just knee against the head, and just couldn't bounce back. Just kept on getting headaches whenever I was training, and felt okay, and then did a bit of just a small bit of contact in training, and then headaches came back. Then went on for about six months, and then after one day, the doctor just called me in and said, listen, it's not worth it. You know, you're getting older. You're not at the beginning of your career.
Yeah.
At least you're getting at the end. I think it's time to call it. And basically, I think that was the Wednesday. The Thursday, I could jump into the Hellbent and just run with it, you know, and just jump in and work. So in terms of that, absolutely, it definitely helped me.
Was it difficult leaving rugby, or did you feel ready, or?
Yeah, back then I felt ready. Because of the injury, I was vastly frustrated. And after 6 months of trying and training and, you know, you just want to get back. And because my contract was ending the end of that season, so you want to play, but you just not, and you get so frustrated. And then back then it was, you know, it was kind of a relief. I just want to do something else. But now 3 years later, you miss it. You miss it massively. And there's a lot of stuff.
I think that's interesting because I was actually listening to like a podcast that Stephen Sidwell was on. He's like a footballer, and he was chatting about like sort of similar sort of story. Like he got injured, and it was sort of just really struggling with injuries, and he never really got to like have that sort of like last game in front of his fans. And like, is that something you feel like you've missed out on? Or?
Yeah, I think it would have been sad to have that, but I think it would have been very cool to have that last game and have that send away and farewell. I think that would have been quite nice. But I must say, Ulster they've been incredible. They always kept me, you know, kind of in mind, and whenever they introduced or they announced my retirement, they did this huge video, and we shot like for a couple of hours, and I basically wrote down and wrote a letter to the fans, and they really went out of their way to make it special and made it special for me. And for me, it was like they didn't have to do that, and I wasn't born here, you know, I wasn't born an Ulsterman, but they, like, since I've been here, it always felt that way, that it was, it felt like I was, what's the right word? They really appreciated me. They really, and that is, for me, that's always been special. And since I've retired, I feel the same way. And they kind of tried to do a farewell, where I think it was a game the next year where they brought me in and basically farewell, and had a small talk with, I think it was Pete from Cool FM, and had a quick chat with him halftime, and basically waved to the fans. So they didn't have to do that. But for them, it was very special, and they went out of their way to make it special. So that's quite cool.
Would you say Northern Ireland sort of became your new home? Would you ever go back to South Africa?
Not easily. No, I must say it's a very easy life. It's so safe. I suppose, I don't know if you guys know much that's going on in South Africa, but that's the biggest thing. You know, it's so safe. It's such an easy life over here. It's small. Everything's accessible. It's everything you need. People are friendly. People let you in the roads. No,
it's just you, because they know who you are. They just let you go on.
It is.
They want free Borr Borr.
So, you know, for me, it's very enjoyable. Everything just led to here. The business, I think it's fortunate that we have the business and we could reside where we got our passports and stuff, and for all of that just fell in line. But it's an amazing place. We really enjoy it, and my wife's happy. And it is, sometimes it gets challenging because we are so used to good weather. It does get quite challenging, and especially now with the business, it's so full on, and we haven't been away in, I don't know, quite a long time. I went to the World Cup final, South Africa against the All Blacks, so that was quite cool. So, but you try and get away a little bit and try and get a bit of sunshine, and because that's the biggest challenge. Everything else, you know, it's a really great place, and the big thing is, you know, we spoke earlier about culture and stuff. The culture is so similar, and people are so welcoming and friendly. It makes that makes such a big difference. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. What was going back to, like, you know, you said at the very beginning there, when you think about rugby and whenever you were a kid, like it was rugby or nothing pretty much, or an accountant, which I'm sure you're glad you avoided that one, but like it was rugby, and that was kind of where you saw yourself coming. So whenever you started your professional career, was it 2006?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, what was that like for you in terms of like that achievement of, sort of making it to where you wanted to go?
Yeah, it was incredible. And again, it's whenever I left school, I was fortunate enough to get a contract with the Lions, but junior contract.
Yeah.
Basically, they just pay for your studies. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
But I went in there, but I've always felt like I was never the best player. I had talent, but I was never the quickest or the guy with the best feet, best footwork to step people. And I always thought, I needed to work hard.
Yeah.
And that's always been my secret weapon. I suppose if you talk to a lot of sports guys, that is, what it takes. You need to be the hardest worker in the room. And that's what I've always been. And whenever in varsity, I remember that it's in South Africa, it's not like that anymore. But whenever I went, you get, like a dormitory in America, where you go in and it's all these the traditions, and you dress up in suits in certain days, and you're really the pleb, you're really nothing when you go in, and it's like that, and it's very cool to be a part of. And then they would these heavy drinking sessions, obviously, as students and stuff, and they try to make the first years as drunk as they can be. And I remember I just said, listen, guys, I've got an important trial tomorrow. I don't want to drink, and I was so motivated to make it, and I remember we as juniors, we always went to gym 7 o'clock in the morning, always early morning sessions, and so many guys that was just incredible talent, and they always kind of had the party life attitude and a bit of girls and too much of a good time, and they might just sleep in a bit, and those things come back to bite you whenever you have maybe a bit of a good time and you miss a couple of gym sessions. You might think like it won't matter, but all of that, it's like the compound interest. It just keeps chipping away. And I felt whenever I was so lucky that where I got my lucky break was I was in a training squad, and I was one of the young guys, and I wasn't meant to start that game. I was just on the bench, and we played against the Force, and it was the Lions. I think it was Curry Cup or something, and we played we warmed up, and the fullback got injured in the warm up. And back then, like we were training, we were just doing fitness and gymming, and I was the fittest I've ever been. And whenever I got that opportunity, everything just fell into place. I had the best game I've ever had, probably. And it's the right moment, the right time. And that head coach just fell in love with me, and he picked me ever since. And if you look back, it's kind of like it's all of that hard training, all of that early wake up, and just keep going, head down, just working hard, and it all led up to that. And I remember that was my big chance that and a lot of people, you took the chance, but it's fortunate. Maybe I would not have played if the guy was starting and he didn't get injured in the warm up. So it all just fell right, and I was the right place at the right time. And from there was Eugene Elof. He was the coach for the Lions, and he started just picking me, and went through the channels quite quickly, and played basically just into professional rugby immediately. So it was, for me, I remember my first game, my debut for the Lions against the Sharks. I walked into the changing room, and they make it so special, with your name and with your badge and your jersey and everything so neatly. These days you see it on TV and you know what it's going to look like, but walking in, I'm like, I saw that and kind of felt so fortunate, and felt a bit of sad that wow, this is so incredible.
Yeah.
That there's something that I've always dreamed of, and it's here. It's almost like a surreal moment. So for me, it was very special. It's amazing.
Suppose it was like an opportunity meeting preparation sort of head on. You know, you had the opportunity, and that guy might have not got injured, and you might have not been able to show your talent. But if that guy got injured and you come on and had an absolute stinker,
exactly,
it wouldn't have worked out the way it did. So then I suppose like the process of moving over here to join Ulster, like what was that like? I suppose because it obviously plays a key part in what you're doing now with Hellbent, with being over here. But whenever you moved over to Ulster, like explain to us what that was like.
So that's an interesting story as well. Whenever I left South Africa, I signed a 2-year deal with Agen in the south of France, and I was there for about 8 months. And I received a call from Ruan Pinot.
Yeah,
he played here, and we've always kept in touch since he left the Sharks, and he's such a nice guy, and he always sang Ulster's praises. Like he always just said how amazing the place is, the people, the rugby, everything. He just loved it. And whenever during that time, Ulster was looking at Stuart Hogg to join the club, and then that he had a contract with Scotland or something, and that didn't realize. So one day, Ruan called me and said, listen, they're quite serious. Are you keen? But I just basically signed a 2-year deal and maybe add on 3. But whenever I signed, they were in the top 14, and then they got relegated to the Pro D2. So I had a clause in my contract, if we don't go up again, then I can get out. And then we played La Rochelle in the final of Pro D2. And then if we won, I would not have been able to get out of my contract. So we lost in the final, and that opened up the opportunity. And I basically got the contract from Ulster on the Wednesday. And I think it was Wednesday morning. And then by that afternoon, I had to sign basically a contract or sign some paper and send it to Agen to say I'm terminating my contract, because everything in France is done through the postal service. There's no email or anything else. So we had,
what a pain.
But we had a couple of hours to decide, are we staying in France?
That was 2014 too, wasn't it?
2014.
Yeah. You posted a letter.
But that is in France. That's great. That's everything is
it still like that now?
I assume so. Yeah.
I wonder how Mbappe got to Real Madrid.
They'll get someone to do it.
A carrier pigeon.
Because but it's amazing. Every town has like 4 post offices. It is crazy. It's quite clever from the government, because they create so many jobs. But in any case, it's quite interesting. But it is quite old school. But it's quite cool.
It's niche.
It's niche. And my wife and I, we sat outside with a signed paper, sat outside the post office for a couple of hours, and just ringing people and asking advice, and because it's a big decision, staying, and we enjoyed it. South of France, weather is awesome, food is great, but just that the rugby was missing, the real competitive. I was maybe just a bit young to play in the Pro D2, and I just wanted to play competitive rugby, and my idea was, playing top 14, and because it's amazing to play in that league as well, and then maybe go, because Agen was one of the bottom teams, and maybe go to one of the other clubs or whatever the case might be. But the opportunity came so quick to join Ulster. So long story short, decided to sign and let Agen know that I'm moving. And then, so big, I don't think if it wasn't for Ruan, I would not have been here, because I think he put my name forward to Ulster, and it's been a crazy journey.
How big an opportunity is like Ulster scene like outside of Northern Ireland? Because obviously like living here, like Ulster's massive, but even like being from South Africa, like growing up, is like Irish rugby seen as a big opportunity to come over here? Like when Ulster came calling, was it sort of a surreal moment?
Yeah, it is. They're obviously Ulster is a big club all over the world, and we always we always watched. I remember I actually tweeted one time when Leinster played Ulster in the final that Leinster was absolutely incredible that day. But in any case, I remember watching that. So yeah, like we've always, you know, watched European rugby and Heineken Cup rugby and stuff. So and Ulster was always in the mix. You know, it's this. And it's a huge, whenever you speak to your agent and what the stats are like. And it was actually weird when I was before in 2009, it was actually close for me to go to Munster. I was still at the Lions and struggling to get into the Springbok mix and stuff. And they, you know, how CJ Stander came and, you know, through that whole process and then play for Ireland. So kind of had the same idea for me to go to Munster. And then, whenever I got an offer from Sharks.
Right.
Because my dream obviously was always just to play for the Boks and for the Springboks. So whenever that came through, I thought that's, you know, it's an opportunity. And then basically said no, and rather went the other direction. So it would have been interesting if I ever went to Munster.
And then obviously, like, you had a pretty successful career at Ulster. Like, you stayed there for 8 years. And then obviously you're doing what you're doing now. I'm keen to like sort of go back to that that moment where, because I think you kind of glanced over it a little bit, where you're having the barbecue and I'm so conscious of butchering these names. The Borr Borrs. Were out. Like, I suppose as you being South African, you knew what they were, but was that the first time you'd seen other people reacting to it, as in, like, you know, the likes of people who were playing and maybe brought up here? Was that the first time you had witnessed other people reacting to them?
Definitely, yeah, because I haven't had it in such a long time, because I've been here away out of the country, out of South Africa for such a long time. I haven't had it in a long time. I haven't even thought about Borr Borrs for years, and whenever we had it, I'm like, wow, this is actually incredible. And whenever I saw everybody else enjoyed it, it's like, it's quite kind of surreal, because it's just not available. You just, you know, if you don't know it, I always try and compare it. You know, if you have if you go to America or you go over and you see Tato chips or Guinness. I know Guinness is so mainstream, it's not comparable, but you know, it reminds you of home, and that's basically kind of what Borr Borrs is.
And in terms of what you see in, you know, shops now in Hellbent, it's a South African recipe but using Irish meat. And I suppose looking at the stuff that you had at the barbecue that time, was that the product, or was there Irish meat used in that? Or so
that's exactly it. It was exactly the same spice and exactly the same meat. So that's exactly the same. So it's in South Africa, there's a lot of people ask me what is South African cuisine, because whenever we try and pitch, and we spoke about going to buyers and stuff and pitching your idea and pitching your products, and so what is South African spice? Is it, we try and explain it's what is Indian cuisine. You know, it's all about the spices and flavors and smells, and Indian is and Asian and all of these fusion, and it's so mainstream now. And like our 10-20 year vision would be having South African cuisine that mainstream, having South African restaurants or shops, and your few shelves in Tesco's or whatever that's South African. And it's just we want to make that more mainstream. That is basically our dream and our long-term goal.
And so explain your Hellbent product range now, because it has kind of evolved. You do meatballs, you do lots of different, you're now dabbling into wine. So like, explain how that's evolved over time.
So we started with the original Borr Borrs and then a burger and the meatballs. So that's basically, it's the same spice that we use, but in different forms. So, and it's crazy that it actually tastes a little bit different as well, even though it's the same spice, and it's kind of a little bit different. So some people might not like a sausage with its casing and stuff, so they'd rather have a burger or meatballs, and you can mix it with everything. I don't know if if you guys have tasted it.
No.
Come on.
I'm not gonna even turn around and say I have. Aaron's tasted it.
Oh, brilliant. And it is, it's different, but it's not weird. It is just beautiful flavors that comes through, and you can have it in stews, and you can have it in with the meatballs and spaghetti and meatballs and some tomato sauce or whatever. And
what's your favorite way to have it?
we normally just on the barbecue.
Just barbecue.
Because we normally, with Borr Borr, a lot of times we would have it in a hot dog. So just put a hot dog and then on a bit of onion or a bit of relish and stuff. Oh, it's really nice.
Yeah. I know you said you asked for did we have it. I messaged we're just back there from being away, and my wife was doing a shop today, and I sent her a message. I said, can you have a look out for stuff called Hellbent? And she messaged me like this is maybe really insulting to you, but a couple of hours ago she messaged me, she's like, still on the lookout for them sausages you want. It's like, so now I'm gonna have to go and say to her they're not.
So after those three, we launched the chakalaka. So that's the spicier one.
Yeah.
So do you want to try and say it?
Chakalaka.
It's fun to say. It's an easier one. It's fun to say as well, but it is for the locals. That is the favorite at the moment. With a lot of the retailers, even though it's a very new product, they really like it. They especially one retailer, they are really pushing it and really trying to get us. We launched into Little GB as well, and so they pushing it quite hard because it is a really, really nice product with beautiful flavors, but it's just a bit, very new and niche, like you said. So, and we've got the chakalaka, and then we decided to go with the wine as well. It's so weird that we've learned so much, and especially in the beginning, whenever the opportunity comes, you just say yes to everything because you don't know what's going to kick off and what's going to be a success. And a lot of times you take things on and it just doesn't work. We tried the beer as well, but our brewery, they did the brewing for us, and it's amazing beer, but we just don't have the time at the moment really to push it. The same with the wine. We partner up with United Wines, so they a local company, and they've been brilliant. They import for us, and then they distribute as well. So even though we don't really have the time to push it ourselves, so for example, for the sausages and for the Hellbent fresh and chilled products, that's my job, is to push it into retail, and I email buyers and talk to them and go for meetings and stuff. So I really, really push it and try and get as many stores as possible. Whilst for the wine, that's completely, I don't have any say in it really. So United Wines, they do everything for us. So we're very lucky in that sense, but also they've got a huge amount of SKUs and products that they have and that they push. And Heineken owns United Wines, so it's great to have such a powerful company behind you. But obviously Heineken would be there.
You're not necessarily like a priority type of thing.
Yeah, it is. For them, it's quite cool because we do quite a lot of events. So whenever we do tastings, and we partner up with the restaurants where we do partner up with different chefs, and then they pair it with certain products, and then with some restaurants uses the Hellbent stuff as well. So that's quite cool that we'll be able to do that, and more people would know wine obviously as our meat products. That sometimes it's a way to connect it to and let people taste the fresh stuff whilst enjoying the wine.
What's the wine called? Is that Hellbent as well?
Hellbent as well, yeah.
What type of wine? Is it based on anything like?
So it is
like a South African wine, or? So
we've got two renowned South Africans. So it's a Pinotage and a Chenin Blanc. So that's very much South African. You get Chenin Blancs all over the world, but Pinotage is very much South African. It's a really, really nice wine. It's a bit of a mix between a Pinot and a Heritage. So and it's South Africans kind of made that mix, and it's very unique. A very, very strong, very heavy wine, but beautiful in this weather. And then we've got a Cabernet Sauvignon as well. So that's very close to a Bordeaux. So most of the Bordeaux's would be a cab grape,
Yeah.
and we've got a Sauvignon Blanc as well. So Sauvignon is very much mainstream, and it's the New Zealand and Australian Sauvignon Blancs are very, very popular at the moment.
Yeah.
So it is like ours would be a little bit different, but it's really nice.
Yeah. I think it's so niche that like what you're doing, and even with the wines and understanding how it's all complementing each other, if that makes sense, is such a, because you literally can have an evening where it's, you know, South African based cuisine, and having your wines pairing up with the right meats and stuff is it's a cool way now, because I do think we are becoming less, I would argue, as a country, we're probably quite bland in our food choices. Like
We like our spuds on our
we like, yeah, it's like meat,
Yeah.
meat, spuds, and vegetables, and that's really it. But like, I think now people are wanting to go out, try more, you know, cuisines from different cultures, and the fact that you can pair it with a wine, and it just kind of makes it a bit more of an experience rather than a one-off purchase. So I suppose you told us your favorite. So if you were to have a Hellbent dinner with your wine, what would it be? What would you recommend for people to try first?
I think I really like the Boerewors. The Boerewors just with on a hot dog, and then I do like our beer, even though the beer is not available. The beer and
You sell this beer.
It's really good. But I'm sorry, just going back with you know, the comment that you made of people changing a little bit and evolving, and I think you can see that with a lot of the changes and the, you know, pop-up shops that's been around in Belfast, and with guys bringing in donuts, and you know, there's all these new shops and new entrepreneurs coming around, and people are continuously adapting. And it's kind of it's amazing because we are in the food industry, we see how many small suppliers there are in Northern Ireland, and how they are pushing that narrative, you know, of trying something different, and trying to, because even with the rugby, with food and stuff, even though Northern Ireland is so small, you guys really punch above your weight, you know, because I think because of the great the produce that's here, there's a lot available, and people are more and more utilizing that and making it, you know, very unique and bringing out great products. And I suppose a lot of guys are traveling, and they get good ideas from America or wherever, and they try it here, and they make it a success. So it's awesome to see and be a part of, because even 10 years ago and compared to now, it's different. It's a huge difference.
How does it work in terms of like the logistics? Like, you know, when the business sort of started growing, like in terms of like where he's got the stuff sourced and made as it grew, like was that the difficulty ever, or was it always sort of smooth sailing?
It was very difficult.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. Yeah, to get, and you can imagine when we just started, you know, to get someone to make it for us was massively challenging. We were quite fortunate that Corrie's Meats, they did it for us. First it was Cornbrook, but then during COVID and stuff, it was a bit of a nightmare. And then Corrie's, they made a big investment and bought machines and stuff. And whenever we got the Henderson's contract, they did quite a lot to get us up and going. And they, you know, but to try and convince someone, you know, you have this vision and you maybe have one contract, but where is it going? What, you know, this sausage, you know, you coil it, and it's a lot of people do pork sausages, and it is all volume. It is just, they just pump it out as much as possible without, it's very niche. It's very different. It's very high quality. But it's high. It's quite a lot of labor because we do that coil. That takes a long time, and it's amazing how, you know, how we've evolved from there and where we are now. But Corey's, we were very, very lucky that they came on board and did it for us whenever they did, because I don't think a lot of people would, you know, take that risk. And then a couple of years ago, whenever the war broke out between Ukraine and Russia, like obviously all the prices just went through the roof and everybody was squeezed. And we decided, the two of us, Corey's and Hellbent, that we're just going to take over production. And we came up with the agreement that we'll buy the machines over and stuff, and then we'll just do everything ourselves, because there's just nobody's making money, and retailers are tough to deal with. And it is, and yeah, since then, it's a little bit easier that we've got basically all the control, and we can do the sourcing ourselves.
It's essentially all like made in-house then now.
Everything in-house, yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, we actually just opened up our own butchery as well. I don't know if you saw that, with Eurosport. So in the Eurosport in Dundonald and up in North Road, we partner up with Henderson's. So, these concessions that's in this Eurosports with the butcher counter, and then with a couple of shelves and stuff as well. So we opened up that just over a month ago. So yeah, that's been quite challenging as well. So
I don't think it's one of them things where when you're in that world, you are almost when you're selling to the likes of them big shops, and there's so many of them, and they are kind of your key to getting in front of, but the ball is more or less in their court when you're working with them. And I suppose what was that like? Because I know from knowing people in that sort of industry, once you kind of get that agreement from the likes of Henderson's, it's basically like, it's not just a one store, it's we'll give you 30 stores, you have to supply them. So was that kind of when that took off, was it a bit of a shock and the demand almost, because you had to obviously keep up with stock? And how many stores was it with Henderson's? You first got 38,
I think. 35 or 38, something like that. And our first order, I think it was, if you look back now, it was nothing, but back then it was 50 cases of each. So that is 200 packs per product. It was 4 products. So it was
a lot.
Yeah, it's for the first time. And again, so feels like everything's got a bit of a story, but that first order, Cornbrook did it, and they were busy moving their premises from Jamara to Lisbon. So they've got a beautiful shop in Lisbon now. They opened up another one, Jamor, but they were busy moving and stuff. And I was training that day, and Schalk was in the factory, and they did the sausages, and then I think one of the machines broke, the sealer broke. But the other machine, the backup machine, was at the old shop in Dramara. So we had to pack all the packs, take everything with the van to the other site, and then myself until about 3 or 4 in the morning, we were sealing packs just to get the product out the next morning. So that was the first taste. I think. I think then we probably should have realized it's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy.
And we just got it done, and I worked in about 3 or 4, and then fortunately I was off the next day, so I didn't have training. But Schalk went home. I think he slept for an hour or 2, and then went back for the next order, because the next order comes in like 8 o'clock in the morning, and you have to supply again. So it was a bit crazy.
What an experience, though.
Do you look back and sort of miss them days, maybe, when it was a bit more hands-on and it was sort of like exciting, it was
still lands on, believe you. At the moment, we work crazy hours.
I wanted to ask you, I suppose this is a good time to go on to that, but what is sort of like your week like? What is Monday to Friday at the minute for you?
For a couple of weeks now, we've been working from Monday to Sunday, 7 days. Yeah, especially with the butchery and stuff. It's non-stop, and again, we're not learning. We keep on saying yes to things. We were at the Royal Highland Show in Scotland for a couple of days, so we had to send some troops over. I was there from the Wednesday to the Thursday, the Friday setting up, and then came back, and we had a South African day in Hollywood as well. So, but for me at the moment, it's I do a lot of the admin and the organizing and a lot of the bookwork. So, logistics and those type of stuff. So, it's my checklist is endless. It's really, really busy, and especially with the butchery, we've got over 100 SKUs now in the shop. So like I said, the nice thing was we only had four or five products, so it was quite easy, and you just pump out volume. But now with so many different products, it's quite challenging to get the sourcing right and make sure the shelves are full, but not too much that there's wastage, and it's quite challenging. And we've been in the butchery most days as well, packing packs and making sure you're trying to put systems in place so that it runs well. And we got someone in to manage the store for us, which she's brilliant. And we're just trying to help her, finding our feet and getting that in place. So at the moment, we're spending a lot of time in the butchery ourselves, and on Saturdays as well, to try and just get the hold of things and trying to stay afloat.
Yeah. I can imagine it being such especially from a logistical perspective, because you're dealing with all these stores, and now you're in Little, and you've kind of expanded more than just Henderson's. Like, I can imagine it being a logistical. That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what has been for you the most challenging thing? Because I think we talk a lot about the good side of starting a business and the success, and it's safe to say you've had a lot of that. But when you look back, and even look back at your day to day now, what is the most challenging part of running a business?
Any entrepreneur and startup would know it's cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash flow is difficult.
Yeah.
It's always just a challenge.
Yeah.
To make sure, because especially when you start a business, not a lot of people give you accounts. They want money up front, and then with the retailers, they take 14 days or sometimes 30 days, sometimes 60 days to pay. So, to balance that and to make sure you have enough stock for product to go out, but also to pay. And it's a massive, massive balancing act.
Yeah.
Now we've gained a bit of, we've had some great suppliers that's got a bit of trust in us and starting to give us a bit of an account. Yeah. Not huge amount, but it's a really good start. So the last year, that's been my biggest challenge, is to have that balance, because I'm doing all the procurement and stuff for the business. So try to source good products, and it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
Has there been any points where it's been like, I don't know if this is going to make it, or maybe these have looked at maybe calling it quits? Like, has there been any really difficult days like that? Like,
yeah, like I would say it's not, we're not going to make it, but there's some days that you think you don't see a way out. You think like, I don't know how we're going to do this. How many times I would call Skulk, because Skulk would be mostly in the factory.
Right.
He works incredible hours. Like, there's not a lot of people that would be able to put in the hours that he puts in. We call it a GB week. We little orders. Like I said, it was 50 cases per product. That is the last order we sent was 50,000 packs that we sent out in one order. So,
and how long does that last then? Like how often is that?
No, that's every 2 months they buy at the moment.
Right,
so they're just doing these promotions.
Yeah.
And we've been so lucky, so fortunate that it sells quite quickly because of all the South Africans around.
Yeah.
It sells quite quickly, but with Skulk, a lot of times during those weeks he might sleep. I think if he sleeps 8 hours a week, it's a lot. Like, he's in and out, and he just pumps the hours and just making sure the product goes out. And because we joke around that winter time is normally our more quiet time, and that's when I graft, and I need to find us contracts and just keep going. And then summertime he doesn't sleep, so we've got a bit of a swap. But the hours that he puts in is crazy. But a lot of times, whenever we need to pay someone and some of the retailers are late or whatever the case may be, I might call him. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. We need to pay this bill, but we don't know. I don't know how we're going to do it. And then somehow we just make a plan and try and make it work. Either by us just investing into the company again, or doing something, but it's it's been very challenging.
Do you think you would have been as successful if you tried to do it all on your own?
I don't think I would have been able to. No. It's with people like the team that we've got is, we're completely different people, but that's what we have got a huge mix, and since the beginning, it's by far the most difficult thing I've ever done. Looking back, rugby was a breeze. Business is really, really difficult. But with the team that we've got, and like the hours that everyone puts in, and because it's us four, we've got some people that works with us and that we employ, but at the end they've got families, and it's not their business, it's our business, and we want to make it work. We need to make it work, and we're the last to leave. We need to get that product out. So with Skulk, there's not a lot of people that would put that amount of hours in that would just quit, and I don't think I'll be able to pay anyone any amount of money to go on for so many hours, just to keep on working and just to make sure product goes out. And it's because with retailers you only get one shot. Like if you disappoint, because they are multi-million corporations, we need them way more than they need us, and if you disappoint and you don't deliver, then it's not going to end well. So it's so important to make sure that it is. And a lot of times I tell these stories to them as well. I make sure they know what we've done, to get this product out, because they appreciate it as well. It's not a lot of people won't do it. A lot of people will send half, or won't completely fulfill the order, but I'm just make sure like you guys know what we've been through to make this a reality. So it's quite interesting.
And in terms of, obviously we talked a lot about the product and like obviously the niche of the business itself, but I suppose looking at it, and Tommy touched on it a bit there, the branding side of things, how have you found a company from absolutely nothing and growing that to where it is now? And how have you found working with the likes of agencies or the branding and really growing that side to make people understand who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, I think it's so important. If I try to think of it a way, I always use rugby as an analogy, because that's what I know, and it's awesome that I can use some of the stuff I've learned from rugby, and it's almost, I wish I've done this more whilst I was playing, is investing in myself. And even though you never earn millions of pounds for rugby, but what you get out of rugby is still amazing. And I wish I invested a bit more. So, for example, like get an amazing nutritionist, or just those bit of detail just to put the cherry on top. And I always just did my own thing, or I wish I employed maybe someone to look at a specific diet, or maybe a gym, gym training or something like that, just to put me onto a next level. But that's you invest in yourself, and that's almost the way in the business that you have to invest in that. Because if you want to play with retailers and go into that direction, and if you want to really build a big brand, you need to invest money into it. You won't be able to, they won't take you serious if you design your own logo on your computer. They won't take you serious at all. You might have a good product, but I've heard so many times of buyers that say they've had these amazing products, but if it doesn't stand out, or it's a simple example, but if it doesn't stand up on a shelf and it falls down, people won't see it and they won't buy it. So if it doesn't sell, doesn't matter how amazing it is, it won't be a success. So we invested massively in this company to come up with a name, but it's way more than that. They've done the market research, especially if you don't know the market. They've done the research of years of experience, and they've had so many different jobs, and they've maybe worked in retail. They know the industry inside out, so they know what buyers are looking at, or what they want. They know what the public, what the buyer's looking at, the person in your shop, because they it's such a science that you maybe have 3 seconds to catch someone's eye, what exactly they're looking at. And are they looking? They're looking at the name. They're looking at calories and maybe gluten free. Like that's 3. If you don't catch it in that couple of seconds, they walk
gone.
away. They're gone. So it's so important to invest in that and make sure that you catch someone's eye as quick as you can. And it is sometimes, and we're quite lucky with the coil. It's different, so it stands out a little bit. So, and a lot of people, we've had so many people that say they've seen it, but they just didn't know what it tastes like, so they left it. So people are still a bit scared of trying new things, but we do quite a lot of festivals and tastings, and we did the Love Your Food show at Titanic, and it's stuff like that is absolutely priceless to do. Let people taste, and it might look weird, but it doesn't. It doesn't taste weird.
Yeah. And you eventually got over the fear of having your photo on the branding as well.
It's still not my favorite thing.
Yeah. What was that like, seeing 50,000 packets?
Before, I didn't say. I always joke with the guys that's in the factory, and packing is like, they obviously after such a week they must hate my face. They look at my face every single day in every pack, and I feel sorry.
Maybe they're doing their shopping in the Euros for. They're like
Exactly,
seen enough of that this week. Fair play.
What's the ambitions now? Like, obviously you've had huge success and you're in a lot of the major retailers. Like, what's sort of the plans for the rest of the year and the next couple of years?
Yeah, it never stops. So we actually just bought another machine to cope with demand and stuff. We just signed the retailer, one of the bigger retailers in Ireland. So we're very, very excited about that. It's not common knowledge yet, but we are very, very excited about that. We were supposed to launch this week, but we're launching next week, hopefully. And so it's just keep on pushing. I think it just never stops. You just need to be able to try and get as many shelves as you can, because the more on it's incredible. The first time that we launched into Lidl, it's amazing how whenever you are in a big company like that and your packs on the shelf, and what value that carries. Because whenever Lidl bought it the first time, I think because we are based in Hollywood, like I said, and we went into the Lidl there, and 2 shelves were just full of Hellbent products. And I was so scared that it wouldn't sell, and thought, how are these people? It's going to be embarrassing coming here after 2 weeks and everything's reduced. And we came back the next day, and quarter was gone. And coming the next day, almost half was gone. It was just incredible. And that's whenever you are in a store like that, it carries a lot, and people trust what they put on the shelves. So it's whenever you are on a shelf and you have that opportunity, it's amazing that people will try it because they trust the retailer. So whenever you have that opportunity, it's such a big deal, and it carries a lot of weight. So we're very fortunate in that. And the more shelves you are, the more you will sell, and more people will see it, and it will, like I said, we would like it to be very much mainstream, and people will know South African cuisine the same as they know all the others.
Yeah. Do other retailers take notice quickly? Like when you got into the likes of Lidl, did you have maybe reps from other big chains seeing your product and contact, and you're like, how does that work? Is it more you yourself having to reach out, or?
Yeah, so some of them do. Yeah, we were quite fortunate with Aldi and Lidl. We got in there with the Aldi Grow with Your Grow program,
right? And
then with Lidl, it's Kickstarter. So they give small suppliers the opportunity for a special buy, for a promotion, and then if that sells, well, you win a year contract, and that's basically how we got into it. And especially in chilled with our products, with any fresh meat, you don't get a lot of shelf life. So initially we had really basic packaging.
Yeah.
And we only had like 7 or 10 days.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute nightmare because of it's a new product, and people, you need a bit of time on shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And we with Corey's, they invested in a skin packaging. So it means like a vacuum pack, but on the tray. So it looks much better. And then you get about 3 weeks instead of 10 days. So that completely changed.
Yeah.
Business completely changed it. So it's with that, you just get way less wastage. And for a niche product, you need that time on the shelf.
Yeah. I think it's also really key in them stores as well. Like, obviously it's important to stand out on a shelf, but then also I think people don't understand how, like, your guys' website, your socials and all are super clean, up to date. I think it's one of them things where a lot of people don't understand. It's like once they get through the door, it's getting it off the shelf, and obviously your presence on the shelf and how you've sort of stocked your bay is so key. But there will be an ungodly amount of people go through that store and go, what is that? And Google you. And if they see absolute, nonsense when they do the Google search, or they look you up on Instagram and they maybe see something that's half-assed from that perspective, they'll just immediately go, no, it's not for me. Especially when you're selling product like food, because all people are thinking about is quality. Is this going to taste good? And is it going to sit well, with me? So I think that's one thing that, like, looking at your guys, the way you've done it, and has that been something that you've offloaded onto like an agency to deal with, or is that something you guys deal with in-house?
Yeah, we do it in-house. It's all my wife. Shamay does, but that comes into the investment of, the assets, we call it assets of the brand. Yeah. And then we feed off those assets. So we just piggy bank of all that they created, and then we just copy the look and the feel and what we're trying to do. So a lot of the stuff that Shamay does is it would feel the same, but it's just into that theme and the assets that we would have. So yeah, you're massively right. And it's amazing how many buyers said your website looks good, your socials looks good. And even though a lot of times you might not have millions of followers, but if it looks clean, it looks good, you look professional. Yeah. It is massively important. And that, again, if you don't have that skill, Shamay's got a marketing degree, so she's really good at that, and she knows what she's doing. But I know a lot of people struggle with it, and they don't have the time, or they do it themselves. But it's massively important to invest in that and get that right, because, like I said, it might not feel it's worth it, or you might not feel you're getting, because a lot of people look at direct sales. If I'm posting something, or if I'm boosting if I'm advertising, what money am I getting back? But it's more about the look and your whole brand, what it looks like. And like you said, people will quickly just Google it or look up on Instagram, and they'll, if it doesn't look good, they won't trust it. And it's again just that investing in the brand and in your products.
And a lot of people, when it comes to that, especially business owners, they want to handle that internally. They want that because they feel like no one represents their brand as well as they do. But I think there is something to be said for, marketing agencies out there who are able to almost like take your thoughts, your download of your brain, and give you something, and then go, okay, I've got you to this point, now it's up to you to run with it. Because no one will love your brand as well as you do. But as well as that, I think safe to say the important part for you was taking that to an agency to almost like bring it to life. And now it's up to you guys to kind of keep it going.
But that moment I will never forget. It's almost like seeing my son for the first time. It was so surreal. It was such a surreal moment whenever they brought up the Hellbent. It's like, I've seen this before, but obviously I haven't. And like it felt like a movie playing in front of me, and just like it was just meant to be. It felt meant to be. And the same whenever my son was born, I'm like, it looks he looks familiar, but it's brand new, and just immediately in love with him. And it felt like that with the brand. It's just for me, it just felt so surreal. And that's what you get whenever you get the right agency, and they can, whatever is in here, they can bring it to life. And they can encapsulate whatever, what you are as a person, or what your vision is. They can put that onto something and create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it must be great though when, like, I know we joke about your face being on the product and stuff, and obviously as a business owner, you want to go in and you probably want to see empty shelves. You don't want to see shelves that are full. But like, what was that moment like going into a store for the first time and seeing your product on display?
It was scary. It's really scary. It's cool. It's amazing. It's an awesome feeling, but it's so scary because like you said, you want the packs to fly. You want it off the shelf, but then you get annoyed whenever it's empty because you're not selling. So, but it's an awesome feeling. That first time driving to a spa and seeing it on shelf, it's very cool.
Do you run around throwing it in people's baskets?
Do you ever get anyone like bump into you in the shop and they've like literally just like lifted the product and then they're looking at you and they're like, that's the guy?
Not a lot of people make the connection.
Seriously?
It is insane. The amount of people that do not make the connection. We would do tastings and we would be in Love Your Food Show or in any market, and we would have the packs there as samples or for people to see, and they would pick it up and then talk to me and go on and never make the connection. But every now and then there's someone like, oh, this is you. But it is oddly the minimal amount of people really make the connection. It's crazy.
That's so funny.
It's very funny. But it's been very interesting.
Well, obviously it was a pleasure to have you on, and such a cool, like, I know we all have said, like, and even doesn't take you to work in marketing, but like, it's such a cool brand. It's such a niche story behind it as well. And obviously the fact that you're almost amalgamating two of these sort of traditions, like the Irish beef with the Irish meat with the South African, recipe, is so cool. And I think it's worth, I know we're definitely going to try it. We'll let you know what our favorite is. But if you're listening to this right now and obviously you haven't tried it, go to your nearest Euros bar, Lidl, wherever, and pick up. We'll put a link in the description for the website as well. And obviously go give Hellbent a follow as well, and Louis. But thank you very much for coming on. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. It was good fun. Thank you.
Thank you.